Thank you very much. I also want to, at this point, welcome to, in addition to our members who are here in attendance, all those who are watching online. So if you're watching online, welcome. Happy St. Patrick's Day, and we're thrilled that you're joining us. If you have questions, please send them to the UMRA website, umra@umich.edu. Email. So that we can capture the questions and ask them, and then everyone can hear answers at the same time. So that would be great. Thank you. I'm pleased right now to start our Learn and Grow program, and Sandy is going to introduce our speaker from the Ecology Center. Thank you.
Hi. Catherine's too tall. Today we have with us as guest speaker from the Ecology Center, Education Director Katie Adams. We are unfortunately not going to be able to hear from the Assistant Education Director, Mackenzie, as she is ill today. Education Director Katie Adams joined the Ecology Center education team in 2014. Her master's in biology, along with over 15 years of teaching and practical experience as a research scientist, give her a unique ability to understand environmental issues and share them with others. If time permits, Katie will welcome your questions at the end of the presentation. Off-site attendees may send their questions to umra@umich.edu. Please join me in welcoming Katie.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for inviting me to be here today and giving me a little time to speak with you. Am I? Oh, okay. It's a little hard for me to stand in one place. I often move around a lot because I teach a lot in classrooms and things like that, and you gotta move, otherwise kids don't pay attention to you, right? But I know that I'm speaking to an audience here. You have a lot of experience and probably a lot of knowledge about the subject that I'm gonna speak about today. That said, I'm going to maybe cover some new information too, I hope, and I will be able to answer some questions you might have. Just to let you know, this program is being sponsored by the City of Ann Arbor and the Public Works Department, and we work with them in partnership to get the word out about the topic of zero waste and what we can be doing to reduce waste in our community and all around the state. The Ecology Center works on issues where human health and environmental health kind of intersect, and ways in which we can improve the health of both. So waste is one of those issues. You know, why do we worry about it? It's very quick for people to go to thinking about the consumption of natural resources, thinking about harm to wildlife, the pollution, even connections to climate change now are really on the top of people's minds. Landfilling waste puts a lot of methane into the environment, right, and is contributing to our problem with climate. Less often, people think in terms of the economic waste that's related to this subject. You know, we waste a lot of resources, and the way in which our organics can be contributing back into more sustainable farmlands and these sorts of things is another realm in which we have great economic waste going on. And then, of course, there's the health costs and consequences that are tied to exposure to waste and to all of these, the pollution that's tied to it. So, when we actually start to look at what it is that we waste, these are actually statistics from Michigan. So we see that food is almost a quarter of what's ending up in landfills in Michigan, despite efforts and opportunities for composting. Plastics are also a huge proportion of what is ending up in our modern landfills now. Paper, metal are other large areas still as well. When you start to think about what our community is trying to do to address this, there's a shift in wanting to reframe how we're thinking about these issues in a larger sense. We have a history of, we've got recycling going on and these sorts of things within our community, but what's being called for now is really more of a whole-scale rethinking about how we're creating and making things with an eye to there being a life, looking at their life cycle and seeing how from the beginning, when we're making things, when we're using things, how are we thinking in terms that we're not going to create the kind of problems down the line with waste that we currently face. And so this is often referred to as thinking in terms of zero waste or thinking in terms of a circular economy. And so right here we just have an image that's showing, like, our traditional model is kind of a linear one where we take things from the environment, we use them, and then we toss them out. We have a disposable kind of mentality. It goes away somewhere, right? And the circular economy idea is that if we start from the beginning thinking about where things can end up or where they can go, then we are thinking in these circular terms. So the goal is to eliminate waste and to really transform how we're thinking about our relationship to the material world. And it really is a relationship. I'm not gonna, so what I would just say is, like, oftentimes in our traditional, when we think about recovering and reusing and stuff like that, I want to point out how low on this triangle those things pop up. One of the shifts of thinking that's associated with a circular economy is actually thinking about how we can remove, reduce, and change how we're sourcing the types of things that we're creating, as really the fundamental kind of shift that we need to make that's actually harder and that we're not doing as much of, although it is starting. Right now we do the recycling, we encourage the reusing, and then of course we throw a lot of stuff away, right? What we do the most of. So when we think about rethinking and redesigning, I'll say a lot of the education that's out there in the public now, or historically has been focused on, like, what can individuals do, and it's an important message to be talking about, and it's an important way of engaging people, right? But we also need to be thinking about how the entire systems that we're working, like, how is manufacturing occurring? Right? What is our chemistry look like? Those of you that might have worked in chemistry departments, green chemistry, the thinking about the process, the manufacturing processes we're using, the transportation processes, the energy production processes, all of these things contribute to waste that we produce, right? So that rethinking and redesigning is really more of a higher level social challenge that we need to be working on. That said, one of the ways that in society we're trying to encourage that is the idea of creating certification programs and stuff. So if you see different kinds of certifications, that's a policymaker's approach to trying to encourage manufacturers and people within the private sector, right, to be thinking about how can we incorporate this new way of thinking into how we're approaching things. So a very familiar example would be, the organic kind of certifications that you see for labels, and then that telling farmers, they need to do certain things, engage in certain practices to be able to have that certification, which then communicates something to the consumer, right? And so there's all sorts of certifications out there. And a lot of different systems are kind of being tried out at this point. So, but these are a couple of them that you can see how, like, federal government, the EPA is involved in this. We have state level. And sometimes within industries, there will be kind of self-regulating in this way because there's recognizing that it's kind of good for the industry from an economic perspective to even be thinking in these sustainability terms. So in general, the benefits that we can get from thinking about redesigning our thinking and our systems for a circular economy. Not only do we get a better use of resources and we have less of that pollution, but then we are creating a lot of new job opportunities, creating new economic opportunities within our communities tied to that. And you can think about the whole green jobs movement as a really good example of that. It is important to think about what individuals can do, though, as well, and to be aware of those things and to communicate those things, because all of us as individuals contribute to these systems. And so one of the messages we, within all of our programs is to be thinking about the fact that at home, at work, in our online world, there are a lot of opportunities for us to engage in a way that ends up supporting a circular economy rather than undermining it. And these are some of the examples. Anytime that we're doing things like using repair shops, using public transportation, using community resources like libraries and stuff like that, right? We're encouraging systems that are reducing waste. And I feel like our online thing is constantly needing update and constantly becoming obsolete because there are always new things online. So probably you can look at that list and see, think of a lot of other networks, online networks or communities that could be on that list for ways in which people can connect, share, trade resources, bartering kind of systems, all of that contributes. Now to bring this home to our community, this is a map. I'm not expecting you to be able to read this map. I'll just explain that this is a general map. We use this in education programs where we'll have teams of folks take a look at this map closely, and what it does is it has a lot of icons on it that show different places around the community that are contributing to ways in which the circular economy is being supported. And the Ann Arbor Public Works site actually has a list of specific businesses within the Ann Arbor city community, and the Washtenaw County website is documenting other businesses around the county that are contributing to a circular economy through either their practices, the kinds of services that they provide, and that sort of thing. I'll provide a link to that at the end of the talk. But one of the other things that's on the side of this here is that it has these different steps. It's just encouraging us to be thinking about those ways in which we can remove or reduce the need for new things, as a first step, and going and getting things repaired, for example, and stuff like that are earlier steps in the process. And it's down at the bottom, actually step 5, which isn't on here, that we start thinking about taking something to the recycling center, right? Or ending up throwing it in the trash. Within our community, I just want to say that there are a lot of services tied to different places where we can dispose of waste. We have opportunities to take toxics back to the Toxics Home Center. We have the opportunity to take things to drop-off stations if they are not taken in our curbside carts and that sort of thing, because our curbside carts have very specific rules about what they can take, as well as a lot of donation centers. They're all over our community. Oh, that's step 5 there. We have special disposal. We even have construction and demolition recovery out on Jackson Road. There's a place for that, as well as our curbside collection. And here in Ann Arbor, just so you're aware, there are 3 services available. There is the trash pickup, recycling, and compost carts are available. We have central composting here in this community. Now, I'm going to give you a game to play. So here's the first game. And I just want you to take a moment to speak to the person sitting next to you about this and to look at this and to see if you can identify something on this picture, if you, I don't know, it's a little bit small, but if you can tell what stuff is, take a look and see if there's something that you would identify as, like, what are things you could do without, or repair, or replace, to better help the circular economy. Just take 30 seconds. Okay. All right, I'm going to bring us back together. I'm going to ask you to talk about the next slide, too. So just tell me, was that kind of easy? Was it kind of easy to look? Yes, no? See some nodding heads or shaking heads. Was it kind of easy to be able to identify something on that picture? In general, yes. Like, if we stop to do it, it's actually not that hard of a step, right? It's more taking the time to stop and do it, right? But we have a lot of opportunities. Now, one of the things that we can also think about is if you need it, where you might be able to get it, right? Like rather than, like, if I told you cannot go to a store and buy it new, right? Like, then do you know someplace where you could source something, right? Like, that's on this list. And so kind of thinking about whether in your community you'd be able to identify a place. Now, I'm not going to have you talk about this one because I want you to talk about the next one. And we've got limited time together. So this is another way in which we can stop and kind of check ourselves and think, like, look around your house, think about the things you regularly buy, and, you know, kind of take an inventory of whether there might be an alternative way of sourcing those things rather than going to the store next time. All right, and then here's the question. Okay, I'm done with it. What can I do with it? And what I want us to do with this slide is it's a way to sort of practice whether you know your recycling rules, or whether you can identify things that are compostable, or maybe the kinds of things that would be donatable, and things that really wouldn't be, right? Wouldn't fit into any of those categories. So we want to think about, if those were your choices, you can recycle it, you could compost it, you could donate it, or you think it's probably going to end up in the trash given the current systems we have. So take a minute to talk to the people sitting next to you and see whether there's anything that you kind of would agree about, disagree about. Just talk about a few items. That's what we have time for today. So. All right. I'm going to bring us back together again. Okay, so as you started talking and looking at these things, did you find you had any questions? How many people had questions? Or disagreements maybe at your table about anything? Okay, I'm seeing a few hands. Okay, so I'm going to show you the answers, and then I would like to actually take a few questions and, you know, hear what, like, if there's some sources of confusion or questions that you have about the systems. And I just want to say also, what I'm showing you, most of Washtenaw County actually abides by the same rules when it comes to recycling and composting if you're using curbside collection. The western, like Chelsea area, Manchester area, goes to a different recycling center. Your recycling is picked up and is taken to Western Washtenaw Recycling, but the majority of the rest of the county comes to the recycling center that we have here in Ann Arbor, and that just reopened in 2021. And that center's rules are the ones that are here. Now, they're not super different at the other recycling center, but there are some slight differences. So I know that not everybody lives locally. So here are the answers. Give you a minute to look at that. Sorry, it's a little hard to see. Yeah, so, okay. So down in the corner, the bottom corner on the right, we have trash. And so things that go in the trash are things like any kind of soft plastics, right? Rubber gloves, masks, really popular these days. Any of those disposable cups that you might get from a restaurant, a coffee cup, any little tiny, like those little K-cups that you make coffee or tea with, plastic forks, knives, spoons, paper plates, basically any papers that have some kind of lining on them so they won't get greasy. That kind of stuff can't be recycled. It ends up, or composted, so it ends up in the trash. And things like wet wipes, the Lysol wipes and stuff that we use a lot these days, or any soft plastic bags. Now, like the frozen dinner bag there. Now, next to it is special drop-off. There's a few items, things like styrofoam, plastic grocery bags, maybe bubble wrap, right? Those kinds of things. Here at Ann Arbor, we have a drop-off station at Platt and Ellsworth where you can actually take those things, and what they're called is pre-sorted. The reason why those things can't go in your recycling bin is because they gum up the machines at the recycling center. The recycling center, or Materials Recovery Facility, MRF is its proper name, that center uses a lot of machines to help sort the different recyclables, and so any kind of soft plastics gum up the works, right? They get caught in the machinery. So those things have to be pre-sorted. Sometimes a Kroger or Myers, they'll take back your plastic bags, right? We've seen this drop-off places. So there's single-use disposable plastics. We don't really want to be using them at all. I'll just send out that message to the universe. But if we are, they often can be returned in that way. The other things that are in that special drop-off are things like prescription medicines, cleaners, light bulbs, stuff like that, paints, spray paints, and things like that, or water-based, oil-based paints. Any of that can go to hazardous waste drop-off, which there's one located on Zeeb Road that's run by the county. So down in the compost, organics include any kind of foodstuffs, brown papers that are not lined, yard waste, leaves, sticks, things like tea bags, coffee grounds, coffee filters, all that kind of stuff can go in the compost. And if you're using your compost cart for the city, you can even put things like bones and meat and stuff that you would not put in your backyard compost, because the facility that it goes to has these giant piles. They get super hot. They break down those materials quickly and can handle it. Your backyard compost can't. The recycling cart is up at the top there. Papers, cardboard, magazines, all those common items that we're familiar are recyclable. When it comes to pizza boxes, make sure they don't have food in them. They shouldn't be greasy, that sort of thing, right? And junk mail is all good. Glass and metal containers are fine, but you want to think about like jars and bottles, and not broken, and clean and empty. Those are the things that they ask for. So food is one of the worst contaminations that gets into recycling. So keep all food and greasy things out. It ruins the paper. And then with plastics, the way the machinery works at the MRF or the recycling center is if the plastic's kind of rigid and holds its shape, you want to think about containers that are used commonly for foods. So like the tray after you've had your lean cuisine or Stouffer's dinner, the tray cleaned out can go in there. The yogurt container from your fridge, right? That's, again, clean and empty. That kind of stuff can be. And so can things like milk jugs, as long as they're rinsed out. And I'm trying to think. Aluminum foil's on there. I just want to point out, right now, the MRF is not taking aluminum. The buyer that was getting it said it was gunked up with food too much, and so they're not taking it right now. So that's actually an error.
Where does the half-gallon orange juice cartons go?
The cartons can go in the recycling. They can.
Even though they have coating on it?
Yeah, so there is one special kind of paper. It's called, and I'm going to say it, aseptic containers. And what it is that they've been designed as layers. So they have like paper layers, and they also have a film on them or like aluminum in them. But they go back to the people who manufactured them. It's an example of the circular economy, truly circular economy, because they go directly back to their manufacturer. They have a process for peeling the layers and recycling them and remaking the containers. So that's a special category.
What about the caps on the milk jugs or orange juice? You can put in recycling, but not the caps.
Right. The plastic isn't going, well, sorry, she was asking, so on those containers, putting the cap back on, again, because those are going back right to the manufacturer, they have use for all the parts. So that plastic cap on the aseptic containers is okay. What I will say is, in general, plastic on plastic is okay. But like a metal lid on a glass jar, take the metal lid off, throw it away. It's not going to get recycled. Yeah.
Aluminum container, not foil.
Both of them right now, they're not taking it because they don't have, so it's a market-based system. They have to be able to sell to somebody that's going to use the aluminum to turn it into new. It's something that they're working on right now. So the reason I'm letting you know is if you get mixed messages about it, it's because is kind of a changeover in trying to find a new buyer for that material. People just weren't cleaning their aluminum before putting it in the bin, and the contamination was too bad. So that's an example of how contamination can affect, our ability to take this kind of action, right? And why it's a whole systems issue. Yes?
Is that a spiral notebook in the picture that you could recycle with the spiral?
It is, and I'm glad you asked. You should not recycle the spiral. Yes, good. See, this is why we put these things up here so we can talk about them. Yeah, you should take the paper out. The metal, any kind of wire stringy things, again, will get bound up in the machinery. So you don't want to put anything wiry or stringy. I also want to highlight lithium batteries. Huge hazard. Shouldn't go in the trash. Shouldn't go in the recycling. Shouldn't go in anything that's going in a truck because that catches fire. Please take them to a special drop-off where they can be handled. Those are the kind of batteries in your cell phone, computer, any kind of remote drill you have or whatever, power tools, yeah. In the back, yeah. Yeah. Okay, so in our experience, they're usually 5s. Most food grade, yeah, okay, we got to wrap it up. Most food, I'm sorry, okay. She was saying that yogurt containers are often 6s. I was not aware of that. Sometimes we don't tell people numbers just because with some audiences, it's like more information than people want. But yeah, so in Ann Arbor right now, plastics type 1, 2, and 5 can go in. If you look at the bottom of a container, it's got the number. There are 7 types of plastic total. That changes from time to time. That's one of the ways the rules change. And again, it is whether they have a buyer for it. 6 does not tend to be used for most food items, although sometimes plastic cups will be but again, it's a very weak plastic and it tends to be disposed of. It's essentially styrofoam. Number 6 is styrofoam. So again, can go to special drop-off, but not. Okay, yes, another question.
About the lids on drinks. Usually there are 2, and our daughter told us once they went out, throw away.
So this is what happened. It used to be that you had to always take the top off of a bottle and throw it away, right? Or separate it because the bottle and the top are 2 different plastics. But now,
Not that lid, kind of like a lid from like McDonald's, like the plastic lid that goes on a coffee.
oh yeah, those aren't going to be 1, 2s, or 5s. Yeah, that plastic. So this is something to know about the way. Again, it's the machinery at the MRF. It makes so many rules for us. So any flat plastic, so that lid that might be on a big cottage cheese, the cap on your coffee cup, any of that kind of stuff. It's really lightweight and it's flat, and they actually use methods that will flip things that are flat and lightweight off to go with the paper. That's how the machines work to separate the paper from the containers, and then heavier containers drop, or things that have this three-dimensional shape drop. So if you have a piece of plastic that's that shape, it will contaminate the paper and it will never get recycled properly, right? So you want to think about containers that have a three-dimensional shape are what end up getting recycled with plastics. Yes? It can't, okay, why can't the lid just be attached on? Well, if you ever see a video of what's going on at a MRF or a recycling center, as these things are flying around, being banged around and stuff like that, that lid will pop right off. So if it screws on and it's plastic on plastic, then screw it on. And I want to finish answering the question about the, one of the things that used to happen even with those screw-ons was that they were two different types of plastic. They actually realized that different types of plastic have different densities, and so if you put them in water, they'll float at different levels. And so now they have remanufacturing processes that they can take plastic items that have more than one type of plastic and they can put them in water baths, and then they skim it off and use the plastics for different end products. So, yeah.
Do you have all this information available? Because the city or the township doesn't have this much detail.
Well, I don't know exactly how to answer that. What I will say is, okay, I'm gonna click to this. So the city is trying to put stuff on the website. What the city can provide you on its website is, and the county can, is like, these are the rules, right? This is what you can and you can't. They do have that information. All the whys behind it, that's why we do these programs. It's a little bit harder. That they don't have resources online, it's true. It'd be good to get feedback from the community that having some of those why explanations included online would be helpful. We could, yeah. Yeah. Exactly, right, yeah. Yeah. Yes?
Does the city do tours of their recycling,
So
so that people can learn?
well, we actually do a 7th grade public school bus tour now. Yeah, we do. We've started doing these 7th grade bus tours. We take them out, we show them the compost center, we drive around the recycling building, but it's not set up to be a safe space for visitors to like come in and actually do tours. I know we used to do that. I used to lead them actually out at the recycling center in the past. If anybody ever went to a tour, I might have talked to you before. But they aren't not doing those. We take the kids around and show them. I know that Recycle Arbor that's working on, that's now operating the facility in coordination with the city. I know that they've created some videos and that sort of thing. I don't think they're publicly available yet, but hopefully they will be, and we'll be able to at least get a sneak peek that way.
Is that the facility on Platt and Ellsworth?
Yes, exactly.
You just that was just redone recently.
Right. Yeah, it was closed down in 2016 and then rehauled, all new equipment put in and that sort of thing, and now and they reopened at the end of 2021. So they've been in operation for a little bit now. Yeah.
I am correct to believe that quite a lot of recyclables can be taken to the
Yes. So the things that are recyclable are more than what you can put in your blue bin, right? Your recycling cart out at the curb. And again, those limits have to do with the machinery mostly and how it works, and safety for staff. So there is a drop-off station right there at that corner of Ellsworth, right by the dog parks, with front dog park there. There's a drop-off station, and they will take many more things. They'll take car batteries. They'll take television sets, and all sorts of other types of things, like some of these more complicated things, and they will work to recycle the components, right? So definitely encourage you to look into that. I would say that the best place to get information on what's accepted there is actually to go to Recycle Ann Arbor's website and look at their drop-off center.
So what does this city of Ann Arbor do with e-waste?
So
All the e-waste that goes to that recycling center at Ellsworth and Platt, what do they do with it?
well, it's
Stuff that goes in there?
yeah, so what does the city do with the e-waste that ends up going to a place like? So it's not the city directly that is recycling it. It is Recycle Ann Arbor that's responsible for taking those materials and getting them to the next step, in order to have them recycled. And so what they do is they establish contracts with folks that essentially buy the materials and then do the work to take those components apart. And that's what's happening, is that they won't take any materials that they don't have a buyer for, to kind of move it along down the line. But I can't tell you who those buyers are. I don't have the names of them. You can inquire more with Recycle Ann Arbor. They might share that information with you. Way in the back, yes.
Did I understand you to say that napkins and paper towels are okay in compost?
They are. You just want to be a little bit careful if they're bleached, like different colors and stuff like that. They might have inks in them that aren't great for putting into the soil. I'd be wary of it if it's that. But certainly if it's brown paper, then they definitely can, yes. Mm-hmm. Not wipes, though. White. I'm going to say in general no. I think that there are ones that are okay. But I'm going to say in general no, because there are some that aren't. And so it's just better to err on the, let's not put contamination in the composting. So again, it's an ink thing, or what's been used to dye it.
First of all, I appreciate the circular concept of hobby. I can remember as a kid that I would take 2x4s, knock nails out, straighten the nails, reuse them, because we did it, we couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
When we were growing up in 50s, early 50s. But the comment I have, if you have any influence with the city of Ann Arbor, I don't think anyone does. I think the council and the mayor do what they want to do. But be that as it may, they did two things that would have helped the process. They closed the reuse center on Industrial, and I know it came during COVID, and I'm sure there are a lot of reasons for that. But they were the depository of last receipt, if you will. You go to the PTA, and they don't take hardly anything. I mean, you go there, well, no, we can't take that. They give you a list, and you have to go somewhere else. By that time you say, the hell with it, then you just throw it in the trash. So if you have any influence on that, that would be nice. The other thing is leaf collection. I still, to this day, don't understand, living in the city of Ann Arbor, why they don't collect it like they used to, twice a year, end of October, 1st November, and December. Now you have to put it in brown paper bags that you have to buy. Sometimes you hire a firm because you have too many leaves. But we used to be able to put them in the street, they'd come by and pick them up twice. And I talked to another council person, to no avail. And they just said, no, don't bother us with that.
Well, I can say I can't necessarily be a spokesperson for the city on either one of those issues, but I can say that given the system that's in place for the curbside pickup, I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to maximize the efficiency of that system to have one type of truck that comes and collects those carts, collects those leaves. And it's just a different sort of pickup mechanism than, picking your leaves up from the street. But
because they're driving these big diesel trucks, they've hired extra trucks. You have 15 bags plus 2 compost carts. It doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense to me.
I appreciate your feedback, and if I will share it. I will share it with my contacts at the city. I will.
Nobody listens to you. I mean, I know, but I love your buy nothing group. I just absolutely think that that's what we have to do sometimes, especially in times of high inflation. You could cut inflation in half if the entire citizens of the United States just said, well, we're not going to buy things too much unless you really have the need for something. But you can just do that, you don't cut inflation, and you'll cut the trash going to various areas. That's my general comment.
Thank you for your feedback, and I will take it back to the city. Yes, I think I don't know, when do I have to wrap it up? Do I have a couple more questions? Okay, I have time for a couple. Okay, yes.
I was just reading an article today that was in the CNN feed, and it was called Gigafarms in the desert. Dubai is doing big business in building gigafarms. And it would be interesting to see how that develops in the United States. Dubai is way ahead of us on these massive things that are doing very circular.
Yeah, that's the like solar farm. I think they're talking about like solar farms and stuff is what. Yeah.
Hydroponic stuff.
Oh,
So people can go in and pick their own vegetables.
Oh, okay.
As they're being grown.
There's definitely a lot that we can learn from other parts of the world and other cultures and stuff that have had answers and that are things we could think about scaling up. Yeah, that's great.
I'm interested in what gigafarms of the future are going to look like. This is a great one.
Awesome. Thank you. One more? Yeah. Yes.
How does the university coordinate with the city in terms of waste and planning ahead?
Good.
I would be curious
So
about that.
one of the traditional relationships that I know is there with the Public Works Department and the university is, your student clean out days and move-in days and this sort of thing. So there's a lot of effort and a lot of time spent connecting with students and folks that are more transient members of our local community to like be aware of the ways in which that they can not only be disposing of waste, but to be really well educated about what resources are in the community for them to source things and stuff like without just buying new all the time and stuff like that. So, so there's partnerships in that way, and the university is very involved in like zero waste initiatives with the sustainability team at the city as well. So.
Thank you. I think there was one more question too in the back before we close.
We got two, yeah.
I just wanted to say that I learned the other day that at Washington Community College, they take those plastic bags from the stores and they would weave mats for the homeless. And that you can donate to them. But I'm wondering too, do you happen to know if stores like Myers that get those returned, if they're donating to things like that?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I do know that there's a lot of schools that are involved in that kind of work, like starting to. So, yeah. I mean, even K-12 schools are involved in projects like that as well in our community. All right, there is one more thing. Is it okay?
Okay.
Awesome. Yeah, I don't want to.
This is a little boasty and it's a little soapboxy, so forgive me for that. This is, you've all seen these. I love this company, Bagoo. I have used this bag literally hundreds of times. It's always in my purse. I just really wanted to encourage people to think about, and then the other thing is about for grocery store bags, they're always in the trunk. You know what I mean? So I just wanted to encourage people to think about easy ways to make sure that you have a bag comfortable, so when they say at the store, when you're buying a toothbrush, would you like a bag? No, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Katie. This was very interesting and informative. Thank you very much.